Stand by the road. Cheers, boys. Go back. Cheers, boys. Go back.
Stand by that. Stand by that. Get better back.
Bills Mafia, good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? We got a special treat for you today. We got Jspence the King coming on. Those of you that don't know him, go check him out on Buffalo Rumblings. He is one of the coolest guys out there, one of the realest guys out there, and just overall just fun to listen to. He does not need an introduction also, but I will bring him on now. Welcome in, Jspence. How you doing tonight, man?
Man, I'm good. You're too kind. You don't have to gas me up like
dude,
that,
no,
man.
For real. This is an honor to me. I know it sounds stupid, but I've been listening to you guys for the longest, and this is like to have you on here is just incredible, and I'm sure all the crowd appreciates it too.
Yeah, well, anytime, like I said before we went live here, man, anytime you want me on, we're all part of family, like this Bills Mafia family. And, you know, the way I get better and the way I get to know more people is if I take the time to actually spend some time and get to know them. So let's do this, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And that's awesome to hear you say that, because it's really hard to find people that actually want to talk, and, you know, to have people like you that actually want to go out here and meet people and spread the word and say your feelings is incredible. But before we get into Bills, I gotta give a quick shout out to the Syracuse Orangemen, 6-0, knocked off NC State. The first time since 2018 we beat a ranked team, and first time since 1987 that we're 6-0. So I mean, is it a good year for them? We'll see. They got Clemson coming up, but gotta give a quick shout out to Syracuse, of course.
I'm just saying, I feel like it's a good year for real New York State football teams. I'm gonna go there. That's where I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I know we all know the Jets and Giants are in Jersey, but they got the New York title. But 4-1, 3-2, Bills 4-1, Syracuse 6-0. It's just awesome, like you said. But I'm gonna ask you real quick, Jay. What do you feel about the running back situation with the Buffalo Bills?
You know what? If I'm being honest about it, man, it's a little, it's touchy for me because I'm a huge Devin Singletary fan. I love James Cook. I love Zach Moss. I think, you know, the potential that these three guys have, like you're excited about the possibility of it. But then when you talk about, you know, all of these rumors, I don't know if any of them are true, but it's like, hey, Christian McCaffrey, we can get hell yeah. Like, you know, so It's like, as much as I love these guys, I think that they've underperformed for what we expect out of them, especially being 2 third-rounders and a second rounder. Like, you expect these guys to come in and really, you know, contribute to the offense, and it just hasn't happened the way we want it to. So, you know, you figure we just got our first rushing touchdown this last week, and that's what, week 5.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy to think about. Josh had 100% of the offense until that point, but I agree with you. And one thing that's been bothering me, I've been saying it every week now, we bring one less receiver, and now we bring 4 running backs, and they get less than 10 carries total in the game. And it's like that Miami game, we really needed a 6th receiver, you know, with all the injuries and all the heat issues. And then, you know, just Gabe Davis has been banged up. So it's like you're going in with 5 receivers every week, and one of them's potentially banged up and might not play. And then you got to go with 4 when you have Zach Moss, and obviously you got Tywan Jones as a running back. You got to have him out there. Motor and Cook. Cook gets 1 carry, Moss gets 2 carries, and then it's like, what was the point of that when you could have brought someone like Hodgins or Khalil Shakir when he was benched the first week? And it's like, that's where it was frustrating me, is because the need for a 6th receiver was stronger to me than 4 running backs, especially like you said, they've all been underwhelming. And I mean, Motor, you know, he's my guy. I met him in person. He signed my flag over here, and
nice.
he showed us that when he gets carries, he can produce. But I just feel like they shy away from the run so much, and like, we're just going to air it out. So, I mean, I don't know if you feel we should have 6 receivers and take either Moss or Cook out. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think it's touchy because, so obviously I know you mentioned Tywan Jones. I know he's listed as a running back. I don't view him as a running back. He's a special teams player. So, you know, I look at him 100% as a guy that's going to be out there as a gunner, or a guy that's going to be out there making big blocks for us whenever we're receiving. So I don't look at him as a running back. But when you're talking about, you know, Devin Singletary, look, if we're honest about it, yeah, he runs better. He's, over the last season and a half, I feel like he's really been putting some real power behind his runs. He's finishing runs with aggression. But again, you still have games where, he fumbles. It's not every game, but he has a fumble here or a drop pass or just something that it's like, come on, man, we really got to get into a rhythm. And then the team goes away from the run game. You throw Zach Moss in there, and then same thing. He doesn't hit the hole properly, or he doesn't. So it's like you want the run game to go, and you look at it like, you know what, let's keep one of these guys inactive and do that. But then what happens is when you get up by a certain amount, you want to take Josh out the game. You don't want Josh in there still trying to fling it around, or you don't want Josh to be the leading rusher on the team. And that's if you look at, I think this was the first game, and I didn't even really look at the stats from this last game against the Steelers. I think Devin Singletary had more rushing yards. I'm guessing that's like by a slim margin. Every game, Josh Allen has been like obviously the leading passer, but he's been the leading rusher, and it's just too much to put on his shoulder. So I feel like they need to figure out how to get these three guys involved. They got to get some type of just some momentum going for them. It's just tough because they found a running game. To me, from the first game of the season, I'm like, you know what? This reminds me of the Patriots. When the Patriots had Tom Brady and Julian Edelman, or Tom Brady and Wes Welker, and it's the short, quick passes, those 3-yard passes that turn into like 8-yard gains. They were doing that with Stephon Diggs from the Rams game. So I think they replaced their running game with those short intermediate passes. And now it's looking like one of those things like, if we're not going to be able to run it, we're going to pass run it. That's how it's going to happen.
Right.
And I think it's a beautiful thing to look at. So honestly, I think the way they're going into the games, I would keep it. I wouldn't even change it at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there because Jake Podger, thanks for tuning in, Jake. We do a lot of show with Nicholson Mafia and Jake Podger over here, and a lot of people on their channel are upset that we didn't get Breece Hall. And just to caveat, talk about the running backs more. And I always say, like, I really didn't think it mattered if we got Breece Hall because we're just such a pass team that he still wouldn't get the workload of a true running back anyway. So that's why I wasn't mad about not getting Breece Hall, because I knew, this is the team direction the team's in. They got Josh Allen, they got all these offensive pass catching weapons, and that's where they want to stay. And I'm going to ask you, I think I've seen a lot of people say what they would give up for McCaffrey. For me, it would just, the most I would want to give is a first and Moss. And I've seen people say, I'll give a first, a second, a third, Moss, and Isaiah Hodgins. I'm like, whoa, that's a little bit too much. But where's your stance on what you give up for McCaffrey?
I'll be honest. I think a first is too much. For me, I love Christian McCaffrey. I think he's elite. I know he's had some injuries that kind of make a lot of people look at him as if he's injury prone. I was one of those guys to say he's injury prone. Yep. But when you go back and look at it, he's still a phenomenal talent when he's on the field and he's healthy. So what you said, we're not going to give any running back the ball, 30 times a game. So to me, a first round pick is tough when Brandon Beane has hit on first rounders his entire time he's been a GM. He hasn't missed. You talk about Josh Allen. Some people would say Tremaine Edmonds is a hit. I'm gonna just tell you, he is. Tre'Davious White is a hit. I know he has his ACL injury, but he's been relatively healthy the rest of his career. One of the best cornerbacks in the league. Then you look at Groot, and you look at Ed Oliver, and we do well with first round draft picks. So absolutely. I don't want to give up that type of capital for a guy who may be a 1-year rental, because next year his contract is $12 million, and the following year is $12 million. So unless there's a restructure in place that he'll take less, I think the first rounder is a lot to give up for a guy that you're going to be paying $24 million to over the next 2 years.
That's a great point. And next year, Josh Allen's $40 million starts to hit. And we're going to have to be, we still got to sign Poyer. I mean, Edmonds is looking for a deal. And I'll ask you, I know you love Edmonds and I love him too, but we're going to talk about him at the end. I want you, we'll talk about him more. But we got to start thinking, like, if McCaffrey, it might be nice for this year. It's a $1 million hit if we get him this year. But then next year, because here's the thing, you could drop him after 1 year after you use him for the mill. But then you're giving up, say they do give up a first round. You're giving up a first round pick for a guy to play 8 games. And I don't want to do that. So they would have to sign him to a big contract, and then it's like, you can't sign everybody, and you got to keep a guy like Poyer. But before we get into the Bills and Chiefs, I want to ask you, so far this season, who are a couple disappointments you've had and a couple surprises you've had
on the Bills roster?
Yeah.
Let's see. So disappointments. I'm gonna be honest, man. It's rough for me to, and I'm trying not to sound like a biased fan here, but when you have the best offense and the second best defense, it's tough to be disappointed in anything. And I've been extremely impressed with our coaching staff this year. I've been extremely impressed with Josh Allen's take. He took another step forward. Like, how do
Yeah, I
you,
know, right?
it's like, how does this even work? So I guess if I was to nitpick it, I would talk about certain things that I'm disappointed in, as far as like what we talked about, not utilizing the run game and establishing, a real, just a rhythm in the game for the running backs to really figure it out. So I would go there. And then, maybe I can't even say the wide, because so like certain games, like the Baltimore game, first half of the game, we had receivers dropping passes. There were 5 drop
Oh, yeah.
passes
Oh,
in the
my
first
gosh.
half of that game. Then you talk about the Miami game and you talk about Gabe Davis dropping that touchdown, or, like, so there's certain moments that I have disappointment in, but just overall, 4-1 going into Kansas City, and it's tough. And I sound bad saying that. Like,
No,
it's like, oh, you're supposed to be an honest and I'm like, I am. I can't be mad at anything that's going on.
I hear you. No, and just to caveat on that too, like I was saying, like one day you'll be like, oh, Gabe, like you dropped like 4 balls, man, and like you only got 8 catches this year, and then he'll go off like he did against Pittsburgh, and then you're like, what am I worried about? But like you said, it's just like it's not 100% disappointment. I think if anything, I would probably say some people on the offensive line, and as Jake said, right after I said that, right on cue, he said disappointments, and this is a tough. Roger Saffold, Spencer Brown, Jameson Crowder not being his fault, just injured. Was hoping for much more. And yeah, I feel the same way about Crowder. And I wasn't high in Spencer Brown going into this year, to be honest with you. I mean, I knew he was a good run blocker, but from evaluating him from last year and to this point this year, he's just the easiest moves get him in the pass blocking. And yeah, we don't have anyone to really put in his place, but that's definitely my concern on the offensive line. And Saffold, he's been pretty solid, but I was expecting. I know he's older, but we were all expecting the best run blocking guard in the league. And then according to the PFF grades, it's just not that. And then there's been times when we're dissecting film, he's just missing blocks and whiffing, and it's just like that's not characteristic of him. But I also think with the offensive line, it's been 5 weeks, new coach, great coach Aaron Cromer, but they'll start gelling by the halfway point, I think. But yeah, if I was to nitpick the disappointments too, I would probably say definitely Spencer Brown, and then just not really at McDermott, but just the fact like it really bothered me that we're not bringing out 6 receivers. I know it sounds stupid, but like we've needed it a couple games so far this year. We needed another one, and they did the same thing with Epineza and Boogie Basham their first year. They didn't give them adequate reps, and I believe practice helps, but nothing's better than game reps. And the first game of the year, I'm expecting Shakir out there. Oh, we heard a lot about this guy in the offseason. Great catch radius, great hands, speedy guy in the slot. And then he was benched, and I'm just like, huh, interesting. And then luckily he's able to show himself now. But it's just things like that bother me. But like you said, 4-1, going to be 5-1. I'm going to say that. I'm going to give my prediction already. 5-1 going into the bye week, and it's going to be great. And Jake says Aaron Cromer is a man. Aaron Cromer 2-man accountability. Yeah, I think it'll all gel together, man. But yeah, I still think the offensive line's our weak point.
I just find that hard to say, man. Like Josh Allen is leading the league in passing yards by a lot.
Yeah,
like it's not like he's leading it by like 50 yards. I feel like what ends up happening is, and I'm saying this with all respect to Jake, so this is not a shot at you, buddy, and this is not a shot at you, Sean, either. I feel like as a fan base now, we've gotten to the point where we're expecting every player on the roster to be Josh Allen, like in their role, because so like now we have Stephon Diggs, man. I said prior to the season, and I'm going to triple and quadruple down on this as much as possible. He's going to be the best receiver in the league come the end of the year. Like, it's going to be undeniable. So we have that type of talent there. We have that type of talent, on defense. We brought in Von Miller, and we got Jordan Poyer leading the league in interceptions when he's missed 2 games. Like, so we're used to having like this level of play that is like it jumps off the screen in every position. But then you look at it and you have a guy that might miss a block here. You might have a guy miss a block there. They're still not by any means the worst offensive line in the league. The reason why our run game isn't going is not because the run blocking hasn't been working. It's because they literally haven't ran the ball. If you run the ball 10 times in the game, and you have, for Devin Singletary, I think last week he ran the ball 11 times and had 49 yards or something like that. It was something around there. I think that's pretty good. It was what, like 4.5 yards per carry. I can't be mad at that. So, I understand, like, if we're going to be nitpicking, and then Jamison Crowder, I wasn't disappointed at all. I think people wanted to see him step in and kind of like take over that Cole Beasley role, but I think the team had a different idea in mind. I think they understood that Isaiah McKenzie is more of a weapon in that slot role. So let's let Isaiah McKenzie have it. That's why we signed him to that 2-year deal. And then I think Jamison Crowder is the guy that, hey, we felt comfortable with him returning punts. He's a very good punt returner. Let's keep him back there and let's use him in that capacity. So now you look at it, it's like, well, he didn't do well as a receiver. Yeah, because the team, I don't even think they focused on him as a receiver, but he made some big plays.
Good point. Yeah, he did, and I like that take. And I don't think that the offensive line is the worst in the league. Like you said, it's more nitpicking stuff because we're expecting so much from the Super Bowl. We're a Super Bowl team. It's our window. So 100%, no disrespect taken by that. I agree with that. And I just think it's our weak link to the team. But like you said, it's definitely not the worst in the league. We've seen a heck of a lot worse. And in that Pittsburgh game, obviously without T.J. Watt, they held their own for most of the game. And like Deion Dawkins even said it, and he was a little bit frustrated when they questioned him a couple weeks ago. How do you feel about like the run game not getting going and everything? Like, do you think you guys can't do it? Or, in different words. And he said, if we're told to run block, we're going to run block, but we pass block. So it's like he knows that they can run the ball if they give it more opportunity. And like I said this before too, you give Derrick Henry 10 carries, he's got like 7 yards. You give him 20 carries, he's got 157 yards. So you just got to give running backs more time to get in a rhythm. And I agree with that. And I just think we're just a pass team. So a lot of people are every week it's going to be, we got to get the run game going. I just think it's never going to be like that this year. I don't think we're ever going to be, 50-50 or 60-40. I think it's always going to be 70-30, 80-20. And that's just how we win. And that's fine.
When you have Josh Allen, like, just look at the history of the league. And I mean, obviously you could talk about the Peyton Mannings of the world when he was playing. That was a different beast though. When you have an Edgerrin James as Peyton Manning, we don't have an Edgerrin James. So like it's a completely different thing. But when you look at great quarterbacks, when they've had great receivers, listen, when Tom Brady had Peyton Manning, when he had Randy Moss, go tell me what the rushing numbers were for that season. Yeah. Like, I promise you'll be like, oh crap, they just threw it. You go and look at Patrick Mahomes when they had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce together. No running. This year, they don't have a running game. They had a couple games where Clyde Edwards, he showed up. He has some decent days, but they don't have a dominating run game that you're scared of. So what I'm saying is, when you have a guy like Josh Allen that can go out there and if he can fling it 50 times a game, guess what? Until they stop him, you let him. You got a Ferrari. Let's drive that thing, man. Let's get it.
Exactly. and yeah, running the ball is nice, but honestly, like you said, it's just not the makeup of our team, and it doesn't bother me. Like, people think, oh, you got to run the ball in January, February. You don't really need to though. If we're, like you said, we got Josh Allen, we got Steph Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, Khalil Shakir, we got all these weapons. Why do you have to run the ball? I don't think you have to. So I'm fine with being 70-30, 80-20. And I think that's going to be more than enough to get us where we want to be. But this is the most anticipated game of the year. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Bills. I don't even want to talk about that last year's game, but that's part of why this is so anticipated. Like, the whole world saw that, and everybody wants a repeat. They expect that's the bare minimum they want to see is a game like the divisional round last year. But when you think of the Kansas City Chiefs, Jay, what puts fear into you about the Kansas City Chiefs, if anything does? But what are a couple things that are players that not scare you, like, oh, I don't want to play them, but it's a matchup nightmare per se for us?
Yeah, for me, it's really 3 people on the roster. So on defense is 1. You have Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones is a guy. The reason, so last year when the Buffalo Bills beat the Chiefs during the regular season, there was no Chris Jones. He didn't play. I don't know if everybody remembers that, but they didn't get any pressure on Josh. And if you don't get pressure on Josh, guess what's going to happen? He's going to eat you alive. And that's what he did. That's why we won that game. When we played him again come the playoffs, they had Chris Jones, and Josh Allen was not comfortable behind that line. And, when Josh gets uncomfortable, he's very good against pressure, very good against pressure. But There are times in big games where, depending on the type of pressure they get to him, if they get him down, or he'll try to get the ball out and he'll make bad decisions sometimes. And so that's my concern on their defensive side. But they're playing with two rookie cornerbacks. Their starting safety is out, due to a concussion. They're missing they're missing some key pieces on defense. Then you flip that to the offensive side, and it's just Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Like, we know who Patrick Mahomes is. We know who Travis Kelce is. He's not going to get 4 touchdowns like he did last Monday. That's not happening.
Yeah, that was crazy, man.
It's not happening.
Do you guys even know he's playing on the field right now? You're just not even near him in the same zone as him.
The crazy thing is, though, without the touchdowns, if I tell you, hey, the Buffalo Bills held Travis Kelce to 7 completions for 25 yards, you'll take that 10 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
But he scored 4 touchdowns on those 25 yards. And it's like, how do you let probably the best or the second best red zone threat in the league get open? And a couple of times he wasn't open, but how do you let that guy get 4 touchdowns in the red zone? Like, that's not going to happen. Jordan Poyer, like Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano. First of all, we have one of the best nickel corners in the league as well. And I think Taron Johnson doesn't get his respect. Taron he's out to show something this Sunday. So, no, I really, if I'm being honest with you, I'm kind of with you in the same boat as you. I think the Bills are going to win. I'm not scared of anything. I think, this is the first time since Josh has been drafted that I feel like, top to bottom, the Buffalo Bills have a better roster than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right in saying that. And, Joy Taylor thought it was disrespect that the Bills are favored in this game. But when you're the Super Bowl favorite and you have the roster that we do, there's not going to be a game where we're not favored. So it's not saying the Chiefs are bad, but it's saying the Bills have the number 2 defense. The Chiefs have a bottom defense as far as, passing goes. They had some pretty, surprising stats for them. They got the forced fumble. They got 6 forced fumbles, which is top, not top in the league, but it's 2 behind number 8, 2 behind 8, which is number 1 in the league. So they're doing a lot of things on defense where they're 13 and set. They got 13 sacks. We got 16. So they're doing some things on defense, but they give up a lot of points. They give up a lot of big plays. So whereas the Buffalo Bills do not, even with a banged up secondary, even with missing your 2 top D tackles, you're still a top 2 defense. So that's why I think we're favored, because we got a top offense and Josh Allen, and we got a top defense, whereas the Chiefs don't. So I don't think it's disrespectful to say the Bills should be favored, because I think they should be. But when you look at this matchup also, it's like Keyshawn Johnson says, if I'm the Spagnuolo, I'm going to double Diggs and then make Gabe Davis beat me. And I'm like, didn't you watch the game last year where he had 201 yards and 4 touchdowns? Like, we have the weaponry without needing Diggs to go off, to go crazy on this defense, especially McDuffie still hasn't played yet. Fenton's out. They're banged up in that secondary. And, they can use that as an excuse probably, or the media could be like, well, the Chiefs had a banged up secondary, but it's primed. It's our strength is going to beat their weakness more than their strengthness is going to beat our weakness. I think that's my opinion.
I tell you what, though, even with that, when you talk about it, it's just a horrible take, whether because even if they were healthy, they're still not the same team from last year, offensively or defensively. So defensively, when you're talking about who Stephon Diggs is against defenses this year, they're using him completely different. Last year, Stephon Diggs was used a lot on the boundary. He still gets his boundary receptions, but he was used a lot on the boundary. He was used not to stretch the field like an over-the-top guy. He doesn't have that Tyreek Hill type speed, but he made big plays down the field. This year, they're using Gabriel Davis in that down the field role. They're using really anybody who gets open, it looks like, but Stephon Diggs is being used in a completely different way. There's no way they don't have the same defenders. Even if their guys were healthy, it would be a rookie over there covering Diggs.
Oh yeah.
That's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And then you flip on it, look at their offense. They have 2, and I don't know if everybody even realizes, they have 2 touchdowns to wide receivers this year. If Travis Kelce is not doing his thing, nobody is scared of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Nobody is scared of Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, I was one of the guys that said, Juju is going to leave Pittsburgh. He's going to come to Kansas City, and he's going to have a monster year, because he had Ben Roethlisberger with no arm, no shoulder throwing to him for the last couple of years. And now he's going to have a guy with the arm talent of like I just thought it was going to be an amazing sight to watch. It hasn't happened. Now, you could say injuries. You could say it takes time to fit into the offense. You could say what you want. Fact is, they're 4-1 without the receivers.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to. And I'll tell you what, when you have the second best defense in the league, you have a scheme that Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott put together that seems to do very well against subpar receivers. The only time we get eaten alive is by superstar receivers.
Exactly.
Like really go back and throughout the entire time that they've been here and look at the games where we've given up big numbers to receivers. It hasn't been Juju Smith, you know what I mean? Like it ain't been Marquez Valdez Scantling. That ain't been it. Now, if Travis Kelce comes out and eats, cool. But I guarantee you, he's gonna be the only one.
I agree with that. Go Bills podcast. What's up, man? He says, "Does Davis go for 4 TDs again?" That'd be so cool. But
it'd be amazing. I don't see it.
That'd be sick. But
I don't see it.
He just had 3 last week, so I don't think he's gonna have a day like that again. But like Jspence said, people ignore that when they talk about the Bills this year. Like as far as media goes, they don't realize that with a new offensive coordinator, they're not doing the same Daboll offense that we're doing. So especially against a team like Kansas City, where the book is out on them again with their secondary. Devontae Adams had 3 catches, but he had 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we have more weapons than they do. And I think it may not be Davis this week. It could be Diggs and Shakir, it could be Knox and David. It's going to be a plethora of people that are going to get involved. And what I think is going to happen, as Jay was saying about the receivers, we know how to take away a weapon. So Kelce he'll get some catches. Obviously, he'll get yards. But you limit Kelce and force Mahomes to try to go to MVS and Juju and kind of veer away from the running backs, because running backs and tight ends who got all the touchdowns really for them. But make them try to make Juju have a game and make Juju beat you, then it's going to be good for us, because
listen,
it's not gonna, he's not AJ, he's not AJ Brown or any of these stud receivers out there, and he's technically number 1. So you allow those guys to beat you instead of having Kelce just rack up 160 on you and 3 touchdowns.
If Juju Smith-Schuster beats us, I will not gladly, but I'll accept that L, and you won't hear anything out of me. I won't talk no type of crap, because they beat us and they figured out how to outsmart us. They played chess when we were obviously playing checkers. The thing is, I trust Kyer Elam on him one-on-one. We're not even going to go man. I mean, we'll have some plays where it's man, but it's going to be mostly a zone, and they're going to figure out how to keep Travis Kelce kind of underneath, so that way they won't let him do anything to break loose. I trust Kyer Elam, Dane Jackson, Christian Benford. I don't care who's covering this guy. You could put. I'm just being honest with you, man. Like, I'm not worried about those receivers, and this is not talking crap. Like, this is not trying to be overly confident or cocky. The thing is, go and look at their stats. I got freaking Juju on my fantasy team because I thought he was going to have a huge year. Go and look at it. And you think his first great game is going to be against the number 2 defense in the league? Come on. It just don't make sense, man. And as far as Davis, I love Davis. I hope we are going against the 2 rookie cornerbacks, but I just feel like Andy Reid is still a great coach. And last year it was kind of by design, not necessarily to let Davis score 4 times, but they tested Davis. It was like, you know what? We're going to leave him on an island. We're going to have 3 guys. Like, they literally had a bracket. They had 3 guys covering Diggs. That's why he was taken out the game. They're not taking Diggs out the game like that this year, because they don't have, even with, if you have a rookie, you got a rookie and a backup safety and a linebacker trying to bracket Diggs. Good luck. Good luck. It's not happening. Diggs is about to eat. Davis is going to eat. I think this game is going to be something that the Bills fans are going to be excited to talk about for the rest of the season. It's going to be bragging rights for a long time.
100%. And I also think, some people say the Chiefs defense is better. I don't agree. I also think missing Tyrann Mathieu is huge, because he was that piece in the secondary last year. Now you don't have him. So I think that's another big piece that people are ignoring.
Better than what? Better. They think Chiefs defense are better than what? Like,
than what they were last year.
How?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't agree with it, but I've heard, I mean, pundits say all this stuff, and you don't know if they're just talking TV or like they have to pick a stance. But I've heard this a few times, and I'm just like, I don't think the Chiefs have a better defense than they did last year.
See, with all due respect, so obviously I love Joy Taylor. Had her on the Code of Conduct. Great interview. I love Joy.
She's
People like
awesome.
Joy Taylor, yeah, she's amazing. But people like Joy Taylor, Colin Cowherd, like Nick Wright, these people, yeah. And so, and that's why I started off by saying I love Joy. So this isn't disrespect to her, but I understand that there are ratings that need to be considered when you're doing these shows. Me, when I talk about it, man, I'm not talking for no ratings. I'm gonna tell you right now, the Chiefs' defense is suspect. They're suspect. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be shocked if James Cook has a great day out the backfield as a receiver and a running back. I would not be shocked if he has another rushing touchdown. I wouldn't be shocked if he has a receiving touchdown because their linebackers can't hang with him. Their safeties can't hang with him if he breaks the second level. Look, I'm just telling you right now, the Buffalo Bills are about to have a day. They're about to have a day. So all of this talk about how their defense is better, it's not. It isn't. It's not better. They're missing key pieces. All this talk about how their offense is better, it's not. It's not. So I'm not being cocky, but I'm gonna just tell y'all, man, it's the real, like, it's about to be a day. So enjoy it, man. If y'all tailgating early, get drunk early, man. It's about to be a day to enjoy it.
Yeah, Jake wants to run through them all already.
Let's go.
Yeah,
I'm ready to.
It could get ugly quick, and and I got, before we move on to other parts of the game, I do want to talk about how we're 1-3 against the Chiefs with Josh Allen. Obviously, this is a huge game, not only for possible seeding, but just like the mindset. I think, but a lot of people out there are obviously it could be for TV, it could be just fans in general. They say it doesn't matter if the Bills win because you have to do it in January. And so that's what, to me, it's true, but it's also really annoying and aggravating because it's like they're basically, what they're saying is if the Bills win, doesn't matter. But if the Bills lose this game, they're going to be the Bills. We knew what they were. They could never beat Mahomes. But then if we beat them and then we don't play them again in the playoffs, they're going to say, well, you can't beat the Chiefs when it matters. You can't beat the Chiefs when it matters. And I just think they're painting that picture, and it's kind of a bad take in my opinion, because this game does matter, and even if it's regular season and you beat a good team, you can still beat them. So that's where I stand on it.
I just think it's an excuse, so for people like Nick Wright and for people, it's one of those things where it's like, now it doesn't matter. Every other game that we talk about when quarterbacks are proving themselves, it's like, oh, this is prime time. He has to show up in prime time. He has to show up for the big moments. He has to win against. Last year, Josh Allen did not lose that game in January. When you leave the field with the lead with 13 seconds left, 99.9% of the time in history, that is a W. Like, that's a big dub. As Jordan Poyer would say, that would be big dubs.
That's what I'm telling you. All my friends were texting me, dude, congratulations, you did it. I was like screaming up and down. I was like, let's go. Like, pounding my chest. I was like, let's freaking go. And then my buddy was watching.
I ran down the street. I live in Phoenix. I ran. I didn't even like. I literally. I just lost my shit. I'm sorry. Can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
Okay. I lost my shit, man. Like I literally. It happened. I threw everything. I ran down the street, and I'm like, oh wait, there's time left. Let me get back so I could watch Josh interview. Like that was. And then I come back, and then it's like, what the hell is going on here? But Josh didn't lose that game. No. Josh won that game for us twice. So for people to act like, well, Josh Allen is still not on the same level as Mahomes, BS. And the Bills aren't as good as okay. So I tell you what, this is what will happen. Right now we're 1-3 against them for Josh Allen's career. If we win tomorrow, 2-3, then we beat them again in the playoffs, 3-3. I don't want to hear crap else about my quarterback. You can't say nothing after that. I don't want to hear a damn thing about my quarterback.
Exactly. And it's just crazy because they look at the hardware Mahomes has, and they want to dismiss skill set. Yeah, hardware matters, but when you look at both quarterback skills, arm talent, pocket presence, how to read a defense, knowledge, they're very similar. And if you could give the edge to either, like, it depends who you ask. But like, people make it seem because Mahomes got his Super Bowl and his MVP, and they went to 4 AFC championships in a row. But when they talk bad about the Bills, they say, you went to 4 Super Bowls and you lost, but you went to 4 AFC championships and you lost 2 of them. You know what I mean? Like it's all about, I think it's more hatred for Buffalo Bills. They don't want to see us up. We've been bad for 2 decades. We've been good for the last 4 years, and people don't like it. People don't like to see Bills Mafia going crazy. And I notice that it bothers people, and I love it. I mean, it's fun for me because I'm 27 years old. So, my whole life basically as a Bills fan was despair and agony. But now that it's good, you can see the people like they used to like us before, like, oh, poor Bills, you guys will have a winning season next year. And now that we're on, they're like, man, these Bills fans, like they think they're so good. They think Josh is so good, but it's just awesome to me.
I do. I think he's good, and I'm going to talk about how good he is because
Every time.
we had to go through 17 years of JP Lossman and like I'm not even going to go down the list because the list is so. I get sad every time I do it. But but yes, and to your point, they are very evenly matched as quarterbacks. I'm not saying this because I'm a Bills fan. This season, I'm taking Josh Allen over any quarterback in the league. Josh
100%.
Allen he has the most passing yards. As far as rushing, he only trails Lamar Jackson.
That's hard to beat.
And it's hard to beat because Lamar Jackson will come out and put 120 up on you real quick with no problem. Josh Allen is that dude, man. He's putting the ball where it's supposed to be. He's taking care of it more this year. I know he has 4 interceptions, but when you look at it, Isaiah McKenzie, literally, it was in his hands and popped up.
Man,
Dawson Knox, literally in his hands and popped up. So that's 2 that I put on the receivers. So he gets that stat. But I'm absolutely saying right now, I feel like Josh Allen has 2 interceptions on the year. I don't look at it like, that. So Josh is better. It's period. Josh is better.
He's been balling, man. I mean, let's put it this way. Let's say he gets 4 touchdowns, tomorrow. He'll be at 18 passing touchdowns in week 6. That's just crazy to me. And, just finally having a Bills quarterback be the talk of the town. I never knew it. You know what I mean? Like I never knew. I wasn't around for Kelly. I was born the last year the Bills were good. So, you know what I mean? So it's just awesome to see Josh getting all that, finally getting recognition he deserves. But looking back into the game, I got some key matchups. And my first one is the interior offensive line. And maybe the O-line in general, just because Chris Jones. And, he can wreck you at any side of the, he could be line up as defensive end, 1 tech, 3 tech, 5. He could line up any position on the D-line. And as you saw with the Derek Carr play, which was, you guys talked about it in your video on the chop up, that was a very terrible call. He had the ball in his hand when he sacked him. But a play like that in a game like this, that can change everything. Because as we saw in the divisional round, there was no turnovers. It just happened to be like that. But in the game we won by 3 scores, we got a pick 6. Group got an interception. So 1 turnover can change this entire game. So that's why I got the O-line against Chris Jones.
Well, I agree with that. I think actually, and you'll see it in the morning when I do an article every Sunday about the game day matchup. And for me, Chris Jones is the biggest matchup versus the offensive line. And I kind of mentioned him earlier. I think Chris Jones, the pressure that he's able to put on quarterbacks or the double teams that he's able to eat up, it frees up other guys to do things similarly to what we used to want Star Lotulelei to do. And now the Star is gone. Now we're getting that production out of Daquan Jones. I think Daquan Jones, and if you look at any metric, any organization that does rankings for defensive tackles and defensive lines, Daquan Jones, he's in the top. Just go check him out. He's like top 5 everywhere. Give my guy his respect. So,
exactly.
So as much as I agree with you, and I feel like it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to kind of hold Chris Jones down. I think they got to worry about us too. I think we got 100%. We got something to say about that too.
Oh, yeah. We can talk about that D-line. But speaking of D-line, I'm going to say a lot of people, that watch football, they think D linemen are supposed to rack up 10 tackles. D tackle is supposed to get 10 sacks a season. But a lot of what a defensive line does, and I love the defensive line, it's all about filling the gaps, gap integrity, taking on double teams, eating up holes, and a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet that make a player good. Like you said, Daquan Jones, you can go on any metric, and he doesn't have a bunch of tackles and a bunch of sacks, but he's allowing other people to eat, doing his job. And, I highlighted a couple plays where Boogie Basham on stump plays with Vaughn and Rousseau, he took on 2 guys, cut in front, freed up a lane for them, for Vaughn or Rousseau, and that gives them a sack. Boogie doesn't get credit, but it's because Boogie Basham executed that play to perfection, which allowed other people to eat. So this defensive line, every week they've been an A+ for me. They've been doing absolutely incredible as advertised. And this is something we didn't have for majority of the season last year. Against the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season, we did a perfect job with contain. That's another key I got. In the playoffs, we didn't contain Mahomes inside the pocket. Jerry Hughes was notorious for looping around and leaving a running lane for the quarterback. But in the regular season game, they did a perfect job condensing him in the pocket, not allowing him to escape the pocket and create plays, which he's so great at. And then we got sacks, we got turnovers, and then in the playoffs we did the opposite of that. So that's my other key is defensive end and defensive lines, and the defensive ends and the defensive line, gap integrity, fill in the lanes, containing on the defensive end side, and then keeping Mahomes isolated in the pocket.
I have nothing to add or take away. Like everything you said, it makes perfect sense, and you're right. We have to contain him in the pocket, which almost sounds counterproductive to what you want to do because he's such a great pocket passer. But the thing is, when he gets an opportunity to get out of the pocket and make those type of, just make those are the way. But again, they don't have Tyreek Hill. They don't have the same type of offense. So honestly, I don't even know if I'm scared of him being contained at this point, because what is he going to do? He's going to get out the pocket and throw it to Marquez Valdez-Scantling and he gains 9 yards. Okay. Give him 9 yards on 3rd and 12. That's okay. We'll take that punt. So I'm just saying, like, as great as Mahomes is, he can't catch the ball that he throws. So
100%.
Like I said, I'm not saying this is going to be a blowout. They're going to make plays. This game is going to have scores on both sides of the ball. But when it comes down to it, our defense is a much better unit than I think their offense is this year. I'm not scared of it, man. So you're right. Like I said, I really don't have anything to add, but I just kind of had that epiphany as I was talking. It's like, but they're not the same team.
Yeah.
Like
that's a good point.
We're respecting them from last year.
Is it weird to say, like, I was more worried, well, obviously because we had injuries, but I was more worried for the Dolphins game than I am right now. And I feel like that's a sin to say, but I just feel like this is why we were drafting. This is why we picked up the free agents, so we could beat this team. And I just feel so good going into this game. Like, I have zero nerve. I mean, I will once the game starts because, that's how football is. But I feel extremely confident. And again, this isn't talking bad about Kansas City Chiefs. I got a ton of respect for them, their coaching staff and everything. But this is what we were drafting for. This is why we got Von Miller. And this is what, this is why we make all these moves. And this is why, you can see every year we've been closer and closer. And then we even beat them last year. I think that they have to be more worried about us. And, people out there would be like, oh, you guys are too confident. But we know our team better than anybody else. So
I think you're right. I think you're right. But I tell you what, don't get those nerves, man. I do. You got an iPhone?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna do you a solid. When we get off of here, do you drink? I don't want to say I'm gonna do this if you.
Oh no, I mean, once in a while, but I usually don't.
Okay, I was gonna say before the game, I'm gonna call you on FaceTime and we're gonna do a shot to get those nerves out. But that's okay.
Tomorrow I will, because I do got a shot for my boy's wedding in a little bottle, so I'll do that with you tomorrow. But.
So tomorrow I'm gonna call you before the game starts, and we're gonna take this shot. So you'll be, you know what I mean, like you're gonna be having fun, because I'm telling you, this game is not gonna be. I think the reason that Chiefs fans feel disrespected is because, going into this AFC, they've been the AFC kings over the last few years because of Mahomes, and that's been right. That's been accurate. They've had a very good roster, but now it's just honest. It's just if you take the names off the helmets, and I was to say, hey, look at this 53-man roster, and then look at this 53-man roster with no names. I guarantee you the majority of the people who know football will pick the roster of the Buffalo Bills over the roster of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not disrespectful to say that this team is better. It's just a fact. And I think the team feels disrespected. The team, and I know Von wasn't here for 13 seconds. There's a couple rookies here who weren't here for 13 seconds. But guess what? The rest of that locker room, we still had a big number of guys returning. They remember in that same building. They remember what it felt like to walk out of that stadium after being up with 13 seconds left in the game. They know what it's like to take that L. It's not happening, man. I'm just telling y'all, if there's any Chiefs fans listening to this, I mean this with all disrespect. Don't look forward to the dub tomorrow. Don't look forward to it. It's going to be a fun game. Don't look forward to the dub tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point, because at the end of, I knew a lot of Chiefs fans. I did have a Twitter for the YouTube channel, but the delusion I was seeing with all the Dolphins fans, I just couldn't take it. So I deactivated the Twitter. I was like, I'm just arguing too much. I get off this app. But a lot of the Chiefs fans were like, wow, that was the best game I ever saw. A lot of respect to the Bills. But I'm thinking, if it was the other way, would they have said that? So now they're about to feel it again because we're about to beat them in their house. And here's the thing. Football's a week-to-week league. So we could win this game. And as last year, this indicates, this a possible 1 seed for us or them, whoever wins. But we still got to take care of business. Last year we beat the Chiefs. We were 4-1, and then we lost to the Patriots, to the Jags, to the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 1.
Yeah.
So we lost a lot of games that we shouldn't have lost. But I think with the roster we built now, and after years and years of continuity, we're not going to lose those games this year. So I really think that this game is like a playoff game. I would treat this like the AFC Championship game. And, it's crazy to think that in week 6, we're talking about one of these teams, whoever wins this game is probably going to host potentially the AFC Championship, because you never know. The Chiefs could get bounced in the first round, or the Bills could.
They absolutely could.
So
The Bills, the one thing I will say about the Bills that I feel like is different from last year, and this is so this doing this podcast has afforded me the opportunity to get to know certain guys and to kind of build some type of relationship with some of the players. I'm gonna just tell you the conversations this year are so different than last year. They knew they were good last year and they wanted to win last year. They never went into a game like, we're gonna blow this one up. It was never that, but it just still didn't have this same type of desire. You have guys that have a burning fire in them this year to do different things for different reasons. For instance, you look at Tremaine Edmonds, people are doubting him. Like, there are still a good number of the fan base that feel like he didn't even deserve the 5th-year option, yet alone an extension. He's playing lights out this year. I've never seen Tremaine Edmonds play this well. Then you look at people like Jordan Poyer, who wants an extension. He came out and said, I want to retire a Buffalo Bill. He's leading the league in interceptions, and he's missed 40% of the games.
Yeah.
And and there were 2 fourth quarters that he didn't even play. So again, just like Josh, you got these guys out here with this talent that feel like they're unproven. And then collectively as a team, you have a team that we know we're better. And you're going to say it's disrespectful to be honest and call us better. We're not going to have a team like we're not going to have a game like the Jaguars last year. We're not doing it. It's not happening. And I tell you what, if it takes another freak storm by God, like force of nature to make the Buffalo Bills lose a game, then so be it. But if the weather is anything remotely calm, it don't matter if it's minus 10 degrees. We saw the 47-17 debacle, like just domination in Orchard Park. You know what I mean? Like that's who and now I'm gonna end it like this point here. The Buffalo Bills want to dominate and they want to embarrass teams this year. They're not looking to just win. They're looking to embarrass you. So I know last year, the Jaguars caught us off guard. Everybody's like, oh, we're going to beat this team. And they probably slept on them. They probably went into that game like, we're better than this team. We're just going to do it. Listen, they're not underestimating anybody this week. No. The Pittsburgh Steelers game was it's that trap game. That's the game where it's like, oh, the Chiefs are next week. And we know we're better. Vegas gave us 14.5 points. We're better than Pittsburgh. It didn't matter. Didn't matter. We came out and put 35 up and could have put up more if they didn't. I'm still mad at Sean McDermott for taking him out. Not for the full game. He was like 40 yards away from the Bills' all-time passing record for a single game.
It's crazy.
Let that man get that, you know what I mean? But I get it. We want to keep our MVP healthy. Yeah. But dude, we're embarrassing teams.
Yeah. Think about it. There was even mistakes in that first half where we could have put over 40 points in the first half. So it's just crazy how good that he's been, and and what people don't, just to get off top on the topic of Josh, and his stats, people compare it. They're like, oh, Mahomes and Josh have, they're this close in touchdowns, this close in yards. Josh missed a whole half of football because we took him out in the fourth twice. Mahomes had to play all game the whole time. So it's 2 quarters, but that's a lot of play. You could get a couple touchdowns each quarter. You can get a couple hundred more passing yards. But that's what I'm going to say about that. But quick question. If you could only pick to give a contract extension to Edmonds or Poyer, I know this is tough. Who
Mhm.
would you pick? And I think
I've
I
thought
might know
about
your
this.
answer, but tell the people what you think.
Well, I've thought about this a lot because everybody knows that my love for both of them is kind of,
Yeah.
like it's
Same.
there. They're both great guys. They're both great guys in the locker room. They both play their positions very well. If I had to pick between either one of them, I would go Tremaine Edmonds. The reason why I would go Tremaine Edmonds is because he's young and he has the years that we can put in front of him. We could potentially get a third contract out of him as a Buffalo Bill. Like that's how young, obviously. But really, he's young enough
Yeah.
to we could get a fourth contract out of him. Like
I know.
he can
Yeah.
be here long enough to be a career Buffalo Bill. Jordan Poyer, listen, that's my dog. Like that's my dog. But
He's
it
insane.
is the fact that, I feel like a 2-3 year extension at most is what you're going to get out of him. When
Yeah.
you look at the way the games have been played without him, other than lack of interceptions from the safeties, there hasn't been much of a drop off in this system. Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier know what they're doing when it comes to secondary play. They got Kyer Elam as a rookie out here looking like, like he's a shutdown corner, and he is, but they got
Yeah.
him really looking like it. They had Christian Benford looking like that dude. They got
That's a great
Dane
problem to
Jackson.
have.
It's a wonderful problem to have. So, with that being the case, I would take Tremaine because I think it's more difficult to replace a guy who has his type of talent and can do the things that he does at the linebacker position at that height. He's fast. He can run sideline to sideline. He tackles well, and he's growing into the leadership role because he's not a vocal person. This year he's
Yeah.
being vocal. He's taken. I will go Tremaine, but
Yeah. And I
I
think that
don't.
makes.
I don't want to pick.
I think. Yeah. No, I hope we don't have to. But in the business sense of it all, you got to take you take Tremaine there. But I'm gonna say I don't 100% agree with you on Tremaine. I love the guy to death. I'm
Mhm.
extremely critical of him because I play linebacker as my favorite position, and he just frustrates me so much because he's the most physically gifted man on that football field every game, no matter who you
Mhm.
play. He's 6'5", just ripped and huge out of his mind. He's so fast, and he just, I mean, again, he's made some incredible plays, and I think he still deserves an extension. But I'm very nitpicky, especially with him, because I take a lot of pride in just in that position. I know I never played in the pros or anything like that, but that's just my position that I'm extremely critical with. And there's things that I've seen with Tremaine, and I actually want to ask you: would you want to make a show just me and you talking about dissecting film of what I've seen for Tremaine that I'm not happy with, and then we're
Yeah.
going to talk about good things too. But I'm just looking for someone else that wants to talk Tremaine Edmonds, and I know you love that guy more than
Yo,
anything. So if you're
hit
down,
me up. Hit
well,
me
I'm
up,
going to
and I
say
tell you, go ahead.
I don't want anybody to think I don't like the kid. I love this guy. Like, and the
No,
reason why I'm so frustrated is because I see how much he's still holding back on himself in year 5, and that's where it is for me. Like last year when people said Tremaine's got to go, I said hell no. I said you got to keep this man. He was 19 years old, playing middle linebacker for the Bills, leading this defense. Yeah, I mean he's got Pro Bowls and 100 tackles every year, but there were steps I'm still waiting for him to do this year. And obviously, I mean, he's made some great plays, but he still has a little bit of a timidness that I notice, and you can't have that. Like when you see people like Roquan Smith and even that guy Cole Holcomb, these guys are just dogs going after the football, and like it seems like he holds himself back from hitting the hole too soon, and he waits for blocks to get to him. And we can talk about all this. We'll talk about it off air. We'll make a show for it, but I think he could get to that point where he's without a doubt to everybody in the fan base, he's that guy. And I still think you got to sign him because you're not going to find a guy like that. You're not going to find a physical prowess of Tremaine Edmonds ever again.
Yeah.
6'5", long arms, very fast, athletic. This guy's just a monster. And I say it on every show. Tremaine Edmonds would kick my ass if I saw him one-on-one, but he's got to be. He's got to use that big ass body that he's got and just destroy these people. But again, I love the guy to death. He's a great player, but I just think, in my opinion, again, I'm not mad at anybody that disagrees with me, but I've seen some things, and like when I'm watching, trying to watch him personally on the films, and I'm just like, damn, Tremaine, what are you doing? But then there's times where, like you say, this guy's just balling out. I
I will
mean,
tell you this.
you agree
I
with
will
that a
tell you
little
this.
bit?
Well, no, and I'll tell you why. So I had the same opinion as you. I honest to God did. Even as much as I love him, I'm like, you know what? There's certain times that I just wish he would attack the hole or attack the play like this. I had Lorenzo Alexander on the chop up, and
Mhm.
Lorenzo Alexander broke down certain plays and his responsibility that the team has of him, like the expectations that the team has of him. So I think the difference is, as fans, we're looking at how we feel like the play should have ended or how the play
Mhm.
should have developed, whereas he's actually doing what they tell him to do. So the team is extremely happy with certain things. So when you talk about other guys like Roquan, and you're talking about Micah Parsons and like these guys, their teams use them differently because they have different schemes. The Buffalo Bills, they want 4 guys on the defensive line to rush. And then they want Tremaine to stand back and make sure the play doesn't get past him. So when you say he waits for blocks to come to him or he waits for plays to come, that's what they want him to do. So the
Mhm.
thing is, we've seen him make plays this year. If you look at the Baltimore Ravens game, we've seen him make plays where he ran into the backfield when he realized, hey, this opening is here. I'm gonna go and get this. We've seen him, tackles for loss. We've seen him do certain things that other linebackers have done when that has become available.
Mhm.
But the thing is, his role is to not be that guy. His role is to make sure everybody around him is in the right position, and then don't let it get past me. And I honest to God, man, once I understood what his role is, it changed my whole perspective of him. He is a
And you know
dominant
what?
player.
I'm really glad. Honestly, I'm really glad you said that because Jake's a part of Nickel City Mafia's podcast, and we talk
Mhm.
about this all the time. I said it seems like this, like there's no, like when I play linebacker, my coaches preached, being ferocious and tenacious and just a go getter and like put your life on the line, and I was just like, this is year 5, and if he's just not doing it when they're telling him to, there's got to be something. Like, is this what he's supposed to be doing? And again,
Mhm.
it's awesome you got to talk to Lorenzo Alexander, and to get that perspective from a guy who's played on the Buffalo Bills and played with Tremaine Edmonds. It brings, like you said, the perspective. And and I did question that. I'm not just saying that because you told me, but
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago, even I was like, is this what he's supposed to be doing? Because to me, obviously I never played for the Buffalo Bills, but it doesn't make sense to me, as far as a linebacker goes. But now that you said that's what he's supposed to be doing, then it's just like, oh, because I was wondering, you're not supposed to wait for blocks. You're supposed to beat the block. And
Mhm.
if he's waiting for it, and as you explained, it's part of their defensive scheme. That makes 100% sense. And I can admit that now that you explained that to me, I can now start looking at him a different way. I still, I'm going to be, rooting for him, and I still want to see him
Still
use
be
that,
critical.
yeah, use
You
that,
know,
that physical gift that he's got that no one else on that field has. But you saying that, and I think to the people listening too, that's heard me talk about Edmonds and break down certain plays, that 100% makes sense. I really appreciate that you said that.
but also still be critical.
Yeah,
These
100%. Yeah,
guys aren't, like these guys aren't I still have to be honest about things. So when he misses something, I try my hardest to be honest about
yeah.
it. Last year, and this is kind of what humbled me on it. I felt the same way about Levi Wallace for a long time.
Oh,
Like
I
when he
remember.
was on
Yeah,
this Buffalo Bills team, man, I was I
yeah,
was
I
I was
remember.
super critical of him. And then again, I have certain relationships with certain players, and they're like, yo, but the team don't want him pressing. They don't want him going for interceptions unless it comes to him. They want him to keep the play in front of him. And once we get into the 20, then we crack down. And if you look
Yeah,
at the way the game was played last year, same thing. Levi Wallace would give up plays and first downs, and I'm like, oh, you get him off the field. But the teams, no, get him down into the 20. We hold him to 3, and then we go score 7.
yeah.
That's what the Buffalo Bills wanted to do last year. This year, they want to get to the quarterback with 4, and they want Tremaine to make sure, okay, if something does get through, it's not getting past me. And for the most part, that's what's especially in the second half. We've only given up 7 points in the second half.
Yeah.
Tremaine is a huge reason why.
And again, that really makes sense. And it's just crazy to think about when we played football. You watch football all the time. You play Madden even, and you're just like, you expect certain things, and you're just like, they do what they're told. You know what I mean? It's just like, I always thought Levi was good, and I wish we kept him. But as you said, I thought the same about Edmonds. There's something you expect from that position, And then every time, oh, there's another catch, there's another catch, there's another catch. Like, damn, Levi, what are you doing? And he has a great pass breakup. And then you're just like, well, you gotta leave it in front of you. That's the type of corner he plays. And yeah, I mean, that makes 100% sense. And now I can look at it in a different lens instead of watching a play where Edmonds is waiting for an offensive tackle to get to him. And I'm like throwing my hat on the ground, like, damn it, Edmonds, come on, you could have had that tackle if you busted through that block. But now I can be like, that's what they're supposed to. That's what they designed for him because he's that gifted. They want him to do that because he's the guy that can run with everybody. So again, I'm sure the people listening are just like, I agree with that 100%. New lens, and that's awesome that we can do that now because we're gonna get 27 back soon. Trey White's coming back, and that brings me to another question.
Yeah,
with Trey White back, obviously he's probably not going to play all game. Starting up, Bakhtiari did. He played a little bit, got taken out, put him back in. But say Trey White's playing 100% of the snap. What do you think about what's going to happen with Elam and Christian Benford? Because you got Dane Jackson probably taking the CB2. And if Trey White's 100%, he's obviously CB1. Do you think that they're going to still try to rotate with Benford, Elam, and Dane Jackson, or what do you think? What do you think?
I think there'll be a small rotation, but I think Kyer Elam is CB2 on his team. He's as much as I respect Dane Jackson and what he did last year for us when Trey went down, and even this year he's playing very good. He came back from that injury, scary injury, very fast. Thank God that he's okay. But listen, man, Kyer Elam, that dude is playing like he's actually, and I even hate to make statements like this publicly, he's playing better than what we saw from Trey.
Yeah, and that's fair.
It's just a fact. If you go and look at his stats, and then stats aren't everything. Go and look at the game. They're not throwing his way because he is glued to the hip of these receivers. And when that happens, so if you get a healthy Trey White and he's being Trey White, if he's close to the All-Pro Trey White, and then you get Kyer Elam being glued to the hip of guys like this,
man, I'm getting happy just like with the defensive line that we got.
It's scary, man.
And like if you get Trey 100, I mean, I'm not going to put that pressure on him, like expect him to be like that because his ACL injury was a lot different than others. Some people come back in 6 months from an ACL or 8 months or 9 months. That's taken him almost a year. So I'm not going to come out here and expect him to be All-Pro White. But if he is, and then you got Poyer there still, and you got the D line and the linebackers. But so Elam, I love Elam, and at first week one when they're like Dane Jackson and Christian Benford are the guys, I was like, damn, he's our first round pick. But I didn't lose faith. I was like, he's gonna, he'll get his, and he's been great. And to bring up that Pittsburgh game, yeah, he got tested, but I'm gonna say, I always say this, cornerback is the hardest position besides quarterback to play in the NFL. So you're not even Jalen Ramsey, you could say the best corner in the league. He got dotted up for perfect passer rating and 150 yards and 2 touchdowns against us. You're not going to have a lockdown day every time. So some people don't want to give Elam an excuse, but I don't think it's an excuse. But this guy's still a rookie. You got to remember that. So he's had a phenomenal season so far. Yeah, he got tested. He got eat up a lot against Pittsburgh. But as he said in his press conference, I watch my tape, and then I don't make the same mistakes again. So when he says that, and from before we even stepped on the field, I was like, that's what I love about that kid. He's going to make a mistake, and he's going to go to books immediately. He was looking at notes on the plane. You know what I mean? Like going to Buffalo.
Like,
so
send me the playbook. Send me the playbook. I love that, man. I love that. But I tell you, even from that Pittsburgh game, the Pittsburgh game, he's hard on himself. But if you go back, because I had to go back and watch it. So at first, obviously, when the game is on, we all watch it from a fan perspective. When I went back and watched the game again to break it down, he didn't have a bad game. In the second half, the Buffalo Bills changed up. They switched over to prevent defense. They were giving like 7-yard cushions. The bulk of the yards that came up against Kyer Elam or the defense in general came in the second half. I find it hard to be critical of guys when the scheme changes to let yards happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'll go with it. I get it. We want perfection, and he's the guy that wants perfection, and he's like, I don't care. I don't want to give up these. So I get it.
He's gonna do it once. You can't. Even he. Obviously as a player, he's gonna expect that. But realistically, we know you're not gonna keep every receiver one to no catches and no yards. but the fact that he wants to be that speaks volumes to his character. But as you said, they played super soft defense in that half, and I was just like, man, you're gonna ruin our no points in the or 7 points in the second half streak so far. If you keep playing the soft ass defense. I was like, come on, you gotta keep them to 3 points. But isn't that just crazy? Like, you played a soft zone, and you still didn't give up any points in the second half, and most of your starters are out for the fourth quarter. That just goes to show how great this defense truly is.
Yeah, and again, 7 points for the entire season. It's like,
that's crazy.
In the second half, not total, but I mean 7
Right.
points in the second half of the entire season. And look, I think that streak is going to break tomorrow. Obviously, I think Patrick Mahomes is still good enough, even with me talking all of the crap that I'm talking about his receivers. He's good enough to figure things out. But I'm not the guy to get on and talk about Kaiir Elam not doing well. So the thing is, I think that's where the rotation is going to come. I think Kaiir Elam has earned his spot
100%.
in his snaps. And I think Dane Jackson has too. But when Trey White comes back, I can see there being a healthy rotation of Dane Jackson and Trey White until Trey White is 100% ready to go.
Right.
But man, I'm telling you, Kaiir Elam is going to be special for a long time in this league, especially if he stays in this system. He's going to be special, man. We're going to have a good defense for at least. I don't see us being bad for, like, on defense. Something major has to happen. Like, major has to happen for us to have a bad defense within the next 5 years. Just
I agree.
Seriously, we have every piece in place. Ed Oliver looks like he's going to just. He's a star, man. He's a star.
If he didn't get hurt, he would have just put the league on notice. Because, I mean, we know about him. But even with Oliver, a lot of our fan base, and I've been on your shows where people say the same thing, like, people commenting, they don't think Oliver is living up to his draft pick. And I'm like, you can't expect D tackle. Again, I always bring the point. You can't expect D tackles to get the sack numbers that Aaron Donald got. Ed Oliver plays his role exceptionally well. He doesn't have to get 10 sacks to be a great D tackle. And, I thought this was the year he was going to, break out in sacks. And he still may, but missing those games. Those games. But I will say also, speaking of the D-line, my preseason guess was Vaughn and Rousseau will both have 10 plus sacks. And they're getting halfway.
This let me see. I forget the exact. I feel like Vaughn has 4, right?
Yeah, they both got 4 right now.
Both have 4. Okay, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Listen, this team, there's no record in the Buffalo Bills record book that's safe. No, and I'm not saying that lightly. I'm not disrespectful to the 90s team. I love those guys, all of them, every single one of them.
Different beast.
This is different, man. And then on top of it, I mean, I guess it's kind of cheating too. You have the extra game. We have 17 games in the season now.
That's
so
true.
I mean, it's very possible Josh goes out there and throws for 5,500 yards this year. It gets very possible.
That'd be insane.
Like right now, he's at what, like 17 or 18?
I think he just hit 15 something for third place all time.
He's at right now for the season, he's at 1650.
Oh, you meant 1600. Okay, yeah, 16.
So, yeah,
that's
so 1651 after 5 games. So he has 12 games left, man.
Well, 4.5 games technically, isn't that something?
True. He didn't even play the second half. So
yeah.
He technically he set a whole half out, but the 2 fourth quarters. It's just insane.
He's gonna put. I mean, if Allen doesn't win MVP this year, and if he's playing how he does now the whole year, give or take a game or two, because you're gonna have those games where you're not, the player you're supposed to be. If he doesn't win this year, something they hate him or something, because he's gonna put out these crazy numbers this year. He's gonna over 40 touchdowns. Over 5K yards. I don't want to say he gets 1,000 rush yards, but he'll be up there. He'll be up there in rush yards. He's gonna put on he's getting better, like you said earlier. He's still getting better somehow.
It's gonna be tough, man. Like I really think that we're looking at one of the greatest football players that will ever play in the NFL. And I know that's crazy to say as a Bills fan, because we've gone through hell over the last 2 decades when it comes to quarterback play. We really have one of those. We have a Peyton Manning. We have one of those. It's incredible to say. It's incredible.
Yeah. the the trajectory that he's going on, you can't even put a number on it because he's still beating what we thought he was going to be every year. But I'm going to ask you this before I got another question for you. Do you, as far as Edmund goes, do you believe, considering we got to think about, Josh's his $40 million cap hit next year, we can't sign everybody to a maximum deal. I thought Harrison Phillips was a guy that would take a home discount to be with Buffalo. Do you think Tremaine Edmonds, getting, as far as his contract goes, that he would take a generous discount, kind of how Matt Milano did, where he could maybe get more somewhere else? But do you think he'll take a discount just to play with Buffalo?
No, and I hope he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those guys. I understand we want to keep as many guys as we can, so we hope that people take discounts. But I also understand, man, like these guys gotta, you only, it's a limited amount of times that you get to get paid.
Yep.
And the thing is, yeah, it'll benefit the fan base, it benefits the team, it might benefit him in the sense of like wins for his career. Is like he'll go down as one of the most winningest linebackers in the NFL or whatever. But outside of that, having those accolades and those stats are cool. But when it comes time to retire, how has that transformed your family? How is that? So for me, as much as I want to keep him here, I'm like, look, man, if he can go out there and get the bag, go get your bag, bro. Because I love, and not just Tremaine. I'm on that with everybody. I wanted Josh to get his bag. I'm happy he took to me, I think Josh took a deal.
He did. And that's crazy to say too, but he definitely did.
You look at Deshaun Watson's contract. He hasn't even played in a year, and he has off-field legal issues. Josh Allen is by far more valuable than Deshaun Watson. I'm not gonna say he's by far better. Deshaun Watson on the field, when he's in the game, Deshaun Watson is that dude. So I don't want to be disrespectful to that point. But when you take that away and talk about everything else that he is, the guy's a dirtbag. He's not even like, you know what I mean? Like Josh Allen is worth more than Deshaun Watson is worth to the NFL. And
100%.
So Josh very easily could have been that first guy to get a $250 million fully guaranteed deal.
Yeah.
Luckily, he wants to be in Buffalo.
Yeah. When you look, like you said, it doesn't seem like a deal to some people because it's so much money. But when you really look at face value, if he goes out and wins the MVP this year, and he goes out and wins a Super Bowl this year and gets a Super Bowl MVP, all those numbers that we think are high now would have been even higher if we waited. And that's just even crazy to think about. But I'm asking you one more question because I don't want to take up too much of your night. And I know this
that fight about to come on. I'm ready for that fight,
boy. Fights. But my last key to victory that I had was, our red zone offense and our red zone defense against their red zone offense, because they're top in the league and we're close to the bottom of the league with our red zone offense. So are you concerned about our red zone offense? And, and in turn, are you also concerned with our red zone defense against their red zone offense?
No, I'm their red zone defense, or really their defense in general, it hasn't been good. But their red zone defense, especially, I think they're like second last to the, they're bottom of the league when it comes to that. We haven't been scoring as many points in the red zone, but that's because we're scoring points from 60 yards out and 40 yards out. So when we get down to the red zone, of course the field is condensed. Honest to God, when I say this, we're healthy. Isaiah McKenzie being back helps. When
thankfully,
he's that guy that when you're in the red zone, you use him as either a decoy or your actual weapon. Like the guy, he changes the entire scheme of the defense when he's on the field. Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox is back. We missed him last week. He's back.
Oh yeah.
Then you're talking about now you have Khalil Shakir. He looks the part. It's not just that he made the team. He looks the part. So no, I'm not worried about that. I think for me, if I was a Chiefs fan, what I would be concerned with is overall, like you mentioned, their red zone defense and just their defense in general. The red zone, I don't think is going to be as much of a conversation as people want to make it seem. Even in the divisional round game that we lost, Josh was throwing touchdowns to Davis 30 yards out, 25 yards out. So he wasn't in the red zone. So that doesn't go towards the red zone stats. If we saving or if we scoring and we do, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree. And, some of the red zone misses that we've had, that one to Diggs where the wind, you could say the wind took it. And,
that was a bad throw.
Yeah, bad throw, but it was open. So it's like, it's not that we can't score. And then, the Dolphins game, Gabe Davis dropped one, and then Josh missed McKenzie on a wide open pass. So it's not that we can't score in the red zone, but when you look at it, our percentage of execution is bad. But this is a game where you could bolster that up because, like you said, their defense is nothing to write home about. So, and we had the opportunities to score in the red zone. It was just more of us failing than a team really stopping us. But Jspence, the king, man. This has been an honor to have you on my show. I'm sure the viewers thought it was awesome too. I really appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the time. And why don't you tell everyone, if they don't already know, where to find you and when your shows are?
Okay, well, before I do, man, anytime, really, anytime, hit me up. If I don't have a show or if I'm not out and about doing something crazy, I'm down, so hit me up anytime. I'll make sure you have my number when we get off of here. Let's keep in touch. We're going to do that shot tomorrow because I need you calm. But y'all can find me at Buffalo Rumblings. Code of Conduct goes live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Hump Day Hotline with my man Joe Miller, The Voice. Joe Miller goes live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Saturdays at 8 p.m. As well. I do the Chop Up with Antoine Staley. He covers the Jets as a beat reporter. And Sterling Furrow, he's also part of Buffalo Rumblings. And then find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jspence the King. I don't use Instagram much, so if you hit me on there, don't be offended. But I try to get back to everybody, so just know I love y'all.
Awesome. That's great, man. Yeah, they do their thing over there at Buffalo Rumblings. It's all great content over there. And Jay, again, I truly appreciate it. It means more than you know. But go Bills, everybody. Let's get this dub. Be 5-1.
Bills.
Top of the AFC. Let's do it. Go Bills.
Let's go. Go Bills.